The number of questions, comments, and concerns about T4i versus T5i that I've gotten in the last couple of days has been a little overwhelming, so I thought I would make a quick video to address just a few points. I'm still not ready to make my full review yet, but I'm confident in the recommendations I'm about to make. And that generally is that the T4i with the 18-135 lens is still a better value. Right now you can buy that for $7.99. There's a link down below this video. That's the T4i with 18-135. There are not enough upgrades in the T5i to make it worthwhile. It's polished off a few rough edges in the 18-55 STM lens is very nice. I'll talk in more depth about that in a second. But really, what I want you to think of this, and I've written this other places and replied to other people with this analogy, is think of these entry-level Canon cameras now much more like the auto industry. Every year, the auto industry upgrades or refreshes their lines. A new Camry, a new Ford Focus. Sometimes it's pretty minor, just small styling differences. Sometimes it's pretty major, a different engine configuration or new computer and complete display inside. But as I said, sometimes it's fairly minor, and that's really what we're seeing here with the T5i. It's really quite minor. Now, a lot of people are making, let's talk in detail about these changes. There aren't a lot. It's not going to take a lot of time. When we're talking about the two cameras, and I've mentioned this in my unboxing and first looks, these two cameras are identical down to every single screw. I've carefully looked at each of them side by side, and there is no external differences at all. They feel exactly the same in the hand. The material is exactly the same. They are the same. Until you look at that mode dial. Now, a lot of people are making fun of it and saying the only thing different is the mode dial. It's not completely true, but it is mostly true. The mode dial is different, and not in a, oh my god, that's awesome way, but it is nicer. It now rotates 360 degrees. I mentioned this in the unboxing. But in addition to that rotation, when you're working in live view, the mirror does not flip down when you pass certain points on the dial. It will stay up, and it makes that switching from one mode to another while you're in live view smoother and a little bit better. When you're shooting with the T4i and you work through the auto point, the mirror will flip down and then you have to turn live view back on. Not a huge deal at all, but it is a difference that I wanted to point out. The other difference is that you can now pull up creative filters when you're in photo mode, so not in video. That's why I said it that way, kind of strange. And you can see the effects of those filters, and we're talking about fisheye, miniature, black and white. Again, this is really minor. It is not something that makes you a better photographer. They are fun, and it's fun that you can now see those in real time as opposed to apply them after the fact, but it's not making this worth an upgrade. One of the questions I've gotten asked, and I was curious about this myself, is do these creative filters now work in video mode? Because on the Nikon D50-200, there's actually kind of neat. Some of those creative filters work in real time during video. One of the ones is the miniature mode. I've shown a video that was taken from the top of a building looking down on the street, and basically it makes everything look modelish and everybody, and when you shoot video in that mode, it's almost like a time lapse, but it's shooting video and then it drops frames out and shortens it all, and it's pretty slick. The sad answer is no, none of that has changed. When you switch to video mode, all of those creative filters are gone and not accessible to you. I've tried multiple ways to get into those. So really, I said the mode dial, the fact that turning the mode dial doesn't make the mirror flip down, and the creative filters in live view. The last change, and this is the biggest one, isn't the camera itself, but it's the lens. It's this STM lens versus the non-STM. I'll have video up soon of these two focusing side by side, but I think many of you, and I've gotten a lot of emails about this as well, that you've bought the 18-55, you take it home, you turn autofocus on, and you turn video on, and then you're really unhappy because all of a sudden your camera is making a lot of noise. That's right. With the STM, it's a little disconcerting how silent it is. And it doesn't get any more silent than this. You do not hear this lens focus. And it does it smoothly. I think it does it just a little bit faster, but again, we're talking just such slight differences that it's not really worth getting excited about. But the other nice thing is that you do have the kind of full-time manual focus, because the focus ring now can be turned, whether it's in autofocus or manual focus. On the T4i, when you try to turn, you end up doing that, and that's not very good for the lens. You don't want to do that. So that's really it. Now I said this, but the T4i, sorry, I can't tell them apart. The T4i with the 18-135 is currently selling for $7.99. I don't know how much longer it's going to be selling for that, but that is a better value buy than the T5i. At this time, I don't see any reason for anybody to get the T5i unless they really want the 18-55 STM lens, and that can be purchased separately for $250. Be careful if you're thinking about that. That's not something I recommend. There are a lot of other lenses out there. $250 isn't bad for a sharper and silent lens if you want that easy camcorder-like focus. But, you know, there are other options out there if you want to be more serious about filming as well. But what I was going to say is be careful. There are now two 18-55 STM lenses floating around on the internet. One is the EFS, which fits the T4i, and one is the EF-M, which fits the EOS M camera, which we don't really talk about a whole lot because it's sold really poorly. And it's a mirrorless Canon camera that just isn't selling that well, and it's not very exciting to talk about. So, that was that. T4i, T5i, very minor differences, and right now the T4i with 18-135 STM is a much better value. If you're still trying to figure out T4i or T3i, I lean T4i for most people, but again, that price, T3i has dropped a little bit more, and so there is some savings there. Watch my T4i versus T3i video if you have questions about that, and then ask me what is best for you. But you got to let me know what you shoot and what you want to do with it. It's really hard when you say, which one should I buy? I don't know which one you should buy. And the other bits that I was going to talk about, one, this is kind of a mishmash, has nothing to do with these cameras, but this is that DSLR Controller app, and this is pretty slick because they've updated it recently. It's been working much more consistently for me with my 5D Mark III. What I have is a wired connection to a Nexus tablet, and then it beams the connection to my phone, and so I can actually stop recording from here, or I can change my ISO from right here, and now you can see that the video just got darker because on my magic wireless connection, sorry, I'm easily amused, I can make those changes, and I think that is pretty nifty. Now, the one other thing that I was going to mention, a week or two ago I talked about the Gary Pong puffer as a pop-up flash modifier that might make, I was hopeful that maybe make the Canon do a little bit better with flash exposure. No. Not only that, when you slid it into the hot shoe, it stopped the flash from firing. I bought this guy, which is kind of the similar idea. It slides into the flash hot shoe, and if I can get it in there, and instead of modifying the light as it passes through, it bounces off a mirror in here and then hits the ceiling, and then your subject, and this is similar to what you do when, or what I think you should do when you use an external flash, and that is bounce it back behind you off the wall or ceiling, and you get a much nicer broad source of light. Your general goal when using flashes is to kind of, unless you're doing something very specific, is to kind of broaden that light source as much as possible. That's where you really get the softer shadows and the really nice look. And I have to say, this actually works. Not only that, they smartly left a little bit of the plastic off on one side so it doesn't cause the flash to fire. It still works if it thinks it's dark enough, and it will pop up and then it fires. So I'll have some more information about that coming as well, but I wanted to throw that up and don't have enough to say about it in its own video yet. So I hope this was helpful. If you have questions about anything I've just talked about, just leave a message down below or find me over on Facebook And of course I do have a really wonderful giveaway that is happening right now, so you might want to pop over to the Facebook page and check that out. Thanks so much for watching.